Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Dig Site podcast. My name is Danny, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Ben J. Marsh.
How's it going?
All good, and our crusty pancake is just Greg. I don't know why you're laughing.
Oh, I know why I'm laughing.
You alright, Greg? Are you there? Are you with us?
I'm out of the loop.
Yeah, no. We'll clue you in later. Alright, we're in a bit of a drought now, so early in the year. It's the first recorded podcast of 2018, and a little bit of a film drought with no real big movie to kind of anchor this podcast down, but we have a couple things to talk about, including a new film. First of all, I'd like to talk about this. So Rian, this is actually kind of old news. I think this kind of broke in November time. But Rian Johnson, the director of Star Wars: The Last Jedi, has been greenlit his own new Star Wars trilogy with brand new characters. In his own words, new characters from a corner of the galaxy that Star Wars lore has never before explored. Tons of speculation on what that could be. I know a lot of people are speculating and hoping that they could delve into the Knights of the Old Republic lore and bring that to the big screen. I'm sure there's characters they could bring forward from Clone Wars or Rebels, like things that haven't been on cinema yet. Then again, he says Star Wars lore has never been explored, so maybe some of the legend stuff, the stuff that's currently non-canon. Any thoughts, Greg? I know you're kind of big on the Old Republic stuff.
Is there anything other than a new trilogy's been greenlit? Any other concrete?
No, that's it. It's new characters in a corner of the galaxy that's never been done before in Star Wars lore.
Yeah.
So there's so many ways they could go.
I mean, there's a lot of legends, like you said. So
yeah. So who's some standout characters, like things like Darth Revan?
Yeah,
what else
I mean,
we got?
I'm familiar with him because of the Knights of the Old Republic games, but outside of that, I'm not familiar with the Star Wars extended universe. There's a lot of it, so I'm sure they can find something.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be nice to kind of do it in a different era, so you don't have to sort of play with the toys that have been given to you. You can create your own toys.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds.
So like way before Phantom Menace, way before prequels and stuff, and just tell a brand new story. Old Jedi.
Sounds ambitious.
It does sound ambitious.
Yeah, it sounds ambitious.
A time before the rule of 2 Sith. So a ton of Sith.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you've got so little to go on, haven't you? So I'm sure there's going to be speculation for months, if not years, before this comes out.
On top of that, have you seen rumours for the new Kenobi film?
I keep seeing the memes.
I don't know if I've seen memes.
About trying to get Ewan McGregor to do it.
Yeah.
I know you saw something recently, Ben. I think I remember you saying to me.
It must have been a fan-made trailer because it looked realistic, but it looked shit at the same time.
Kind of like the prequels.
Yeah. It just didn't seem like it doesn't seem like there was much of a story in the trailer. They were making this trailer, but it just didn't seem like there was a plot to what was going on. It just sounded like scenes of Ewan McGregor patched together, looking as Obi-Wan and aged and in between the two. But no, I don't know what they can do with Obi-Wan if he doesn't connect with anyone at that point as well.
Yeah.
Obviously connect with random new characters, but not.
The best one that I saw was that it'd be called Hello There. A Star Wars story. And that's just call it that.
No, I heard it was going to be called Kenobi.
Yeah.
I'd personally love to see Ewan McGregor take it up again. It'd be great. I'd love to see him do an older. I think we mentioned it in the last episode. If I'm not mistaken, it rings a bell. Yeah, it would be so cool. He brought so much to that character. I know. I
Ewan
think
McGregor was the good bit.
Yeah, he was a really standout part of those movies. Yeah, I know they delved into some of what Obi-Wan did in his exile in, I think, the Clone Wars. He ended up having a final fight with Darth Maul and wrecked him, absolutely destroyed him. Yeah, so who knows where they could go?
Well, in the Clone Wars,
It was something like Clone Wars. It was one of the animated series. So it might not have been the Clone Wars, could have been Rebels or something like that. I'm not sure. I'm not too well up on that stuff.
No, mate.
But I saw it. The whole Darth Maul survives the Phantom Menace thing. I'm not a fan of anyway.
Seen him be like attached on the top of like one of a droid car or something like that.
Yeah, so he has like a cybernetic bottom half now, and he goes on like a revenge mission to take out the Emperor and fails, and then tries to take out Obi-Wan.
Imagine just rolling in like a droid car and just rolling into position and be like, at last you'll have revenge. It's like, no, you won't. You're dead.
Ben, do you have any thoughts on Rian Johnson directing more Star Wars movies following The Last Jedi?
Star Wars, yay! Rian Johnson, no.
Not a fan.
Not a fan, really. No, I'm still reeling a little bit.
Yeah,
from...
the more
you like The Last Jedi.
I liked it more when I first saw it, and I did like it second time. But the more I think about I'm starting to sour on it a little.
I'm annoyed by it.
I'm
disappointed by it.
I won't go as far as to
didn't want to
say
be.
they ruined Luke Skywalker, like a lot of people feel. But I think they've ruined some aspects of him. I don't feel good about. So my thing with Luke at the moment is, by all means, make me feel better about this, Greg, because I want to. Is that Luke now doesn't feel like the guy that he felt like at the end of The Last Jedi. No, because of not The Last Jedi, sorry, Return of the Jedi. Following Return of the Jedi, you assume Luke goes on and builds up the Jedi again, and he's this super important guy. And I know he did try and do that and failed. Now he just seems like he was a bridge. He's a bridge, so Rey could eventually do that, and that doesn't sit too well with me.
I guess I liked his story. I thought it was different.
I don't dislike his story, but the more I think about it,
that
it
where
just
he was like, he did that in the comics and stuff. You know, the extended universe where he was all like super powerful, big dick man. I liked it. And yeah, he is a bridge, but all the characters are going to be bridges to the next ones.
Yeah,
they always were going to be.
Yeah, it just seems like
the sandwich between these are now the middle three films of a soon to be 9 film. So there was always going to be the bridge. There's no other way about it. And you look when you're young and you're like, oh, you know, he's my favourite character and stuff like that. Sure. And you can feel a bit upset because your character has died.
And that's not even the part that upsets me.
But he's an old man. He'll always have to go at some point.
Yeah, that's not the part that bothers me. I'm fine with him dying or becoming one with the Force or whatever it was. And as I said last time, you know, I love the whole sequence at the end. Luke's badass moment. That was great. Like I said, I don't want to say it ruined the character. It didn't ruin the character. Just that feeling now of he didn't really do anything too important after Return of the Jedi, and he just became a.
Well, that's not the fault of the last. That's not the fault of the Last Jedi, is it? Of the film, because that sort of stuff where it was just like, oh yeah, he went into hiding. That came out in The Force Awakens.
I know, for sure.
So yeah,
I'm so conflicted on it. It's weird.
You can disagree with this.
I think the films made it worse for you. I think the fact that you're not as impressed with the movie has pulled into the fact that you're not impressed with a sort of a final farewell to someone that you've loved for the.
Again, it's not so
Original
much a
three.
farewell because I like the way he went out, and I love the whole scene on Crate, and even the part is just before he disappears. He sat in front of the two suns on that planet, and it's reminiscent of Star Wars.
Tatooine.
Of Tatooine, yeah, playing the I forget the name of the piece. Greg, help me. That Luke Skywalker.
It's either called Binary Sunset or the Force theme.
Right.
One of the two.
So yeah, I liked all that. I really did. It's not him. It's not him dying. It's not a farewell to the character that bothers me. It's just I don't know. I'm conflicted. I really am. There's just something that's just not sitting right with me, and it feels like I feel like Luke should have been the one, and instead now it's going to be Rey, and I like Rey a lot. But I don't know.
But Luke, you got that build up in the prequels where it's like, oh, the chosen one will bring balance to the Force. That was never Luke.
Yeah, I get that.
It was always Anakin.
Yeah.
So, listen, don't get me wrong. Luke was always my favourite character from the original series. But my favourite parts in The Last Jedi were Luke's bits throughout the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can say, oh, what if they did the story this way and what if they did it that way?
Yeah.
But, they didn't, no. And yeah, you can be disappointed, but I think the way they did it was probably one of the best ways they could have done that story. Mm. That particular story where Luke is a recluse.
Sure, yeah.
They brought him back into it in, a way that makes him feel like a badass, and he fucking does. Well,
Yeah.
let's not diminish what he did in that film. He fucking feels like a badass from the opposite end of the galaxy. But ultimately, he has to pass the torch to Rey, and Rey's an interesting character, but I don't think she's as interested in some. I think it might be a little bit of a controversial opinion, but I think people like Rey more for the fact that she's a female lead rather than because she's an interesting character. Because arguably she's a little bit of a Mary Sue, that she's got all this power suddenly.
I don't feel that way personally. I really like her character a lot.
I don't think there's a lot to her at the moment.
I liked her from almost off the bat in The Force Awakens. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think there's a lot to her. I think she's fine, and I'm more than happy for her to lead the series. But Luke was always my favourite, and Luke still is my favourite.
Yeah.
But that torch needed to be passed.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think they've done it in a good way. Not the best way, but a good way.
I have a lot of conflicting emotions on it, and I don't feel like I've explained how I feel too well. I know what I mean, but yeah, I don't know. It's just that feeling that Luke didn't really do anything too important following Return of the Jedi, and now it just goes on to someone else. It's just I would have hoped that my Luke Skywalker would have done more. But yeah, bring it back to Rian Johnson again. So yeah, Ben has his reservations on it. But the thing is with Rian Johnson, he is actually a really good director. He's directed some of my favourite things. So not in films like he did. Like he directed Looper, which was okay. It wasn't bad, but he directed 3 episodes of Breaking Bad, 2 of which are my favourite episodes, or two of my favourites. He directed Fly, which was an hour of Walt and Jesse trying to kill a fly. Yeah,
that's one of your favourites.
I loved it because it was just such a change of pace. I love stuff like that when shows do that, and just have like a.
I think you just hit the nail on the head there. It's a change of pace. Yeah. I think he's changed the pace in something that didn't need changing.
Yeah, but also right, he directed Ozymandias, which is
the best episode of the entire
easily
series.
My favourite episode. Yeah, So it's not as if he doesn't have it in him. I'm thinking now he has this blank canvas, this trilogy to do whatever he wants with new characters that he can do himself. I'm hoping he can flourish with that. It didn't work with him using existing characters, or it didn't work to its full potential, I didn't think. So,
However, if you're saying this news came out in November
mm-hmm.
and the movie came out in December and it's had such a mixed response, do you reckon they're going to stick with him?
You think they could pull it from him? I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything so
Because-
far. It's looking like it's still going ahead.
Because it has been seriously mixed on this.
Yeah.
And not in a movie sense where people have different opinions. In it is pretty much like 50-50. People like it or don't, and it's for a Star Wars movie that isn't great.
Yeah, like fans say remove it from canon and shit.
Yeah.
I don't feel that bad. I don't feel that badly about it. But yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna remain cautiously optimistic. He for sure has it in him to produce something fantastic. If you look at that one episode of Breaking Bad alone, it's just phenomenal. Absolutely fantastic. So, he's hoping that he can do something on that level in a new Star Wars world. Let's talk about Sicario. And I know it's not too relevant these days, but it's a bit more relevant to us because the three of us watch it very recently. Ben for the first time, me for the second, and I think it was Greg's third viewing. This film is really, really, really good. I think it only gets better the more you watch it. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Couldn't tell you.
Well, you'll have to watch it again because I think you should. It's one of those where you just want to sit down and kind of focus on it because you watch it the first time and you can keep hold of the plot, but a lot of the kind of details.
It's that kind of film you really gotta pay attention. You can't half-ass it.
Yeah, they use a lot of terms you're unfamiliar with and stuff like that. Kind of, and a lot of the times you're what the fuck are they talking about?
Mm.
And you catch up on it the second time and the third time, and you kind of get you catch hold of the film, and it's weird because it's one of those where it's no less interesting on like repeat watches for me at least. It was no less interesting to watch it the second time or the third time.
I was way more interested in the second time. With the first time, I struggled to keep up with it. I thought it was moving too fast, and I wasn't understanding it. The second time, I was a little more dialed in. How was your viewing, Ben? First time seeing it. Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it, but I got to the end and I was sort of obviously when the story sort of unfolded and unravelled, it made sense. But obviously, I can see what you're saying about watching it a second time and the hints and the clues being there to begin with before the sort of twist at the end where it's the way it works out. I can see that being interesting to have the inside knowledge already and seeing the telltale signs.
So they're doing a sequel, Sicario 2. I forget what the subtitle is.
Soldado.
Soldado.
So I say they were going to call it Sicario 2, surely.
Sicario 2. Sicario
Soldado.
harder.
Electric Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo. But yeah, the difference this time is there's going to be no Emily Blunt, which is fine. She doesn't need to reprise. It's not going to be directed by Denis Villeneuve, which is a big deal for me. Because he's
That's
easily
the biggest deal.
Yeah, he's easily my favourite director these days. And yeah, he killed it with the first one. So now it's going to Stefano Sollima. I looked up their previous work, and there's nothing I know. It's a bunch of Italian movies that I've never seen. So yeah, I have my reservations about it because Denis Villeneuve did such a fantastic job with it.
Yeah, and I think one of his strongest things throughout all of his films, but particularly in Sicario, was atmosphere.
For sure.
And atmosphere is kind of tough to build, isn't it? In some films, you can go throughout an entire film and it doesn't feel, it doesn't have its own like kind of unique feeling.
Yeah.
Whereas every one of this guy's films, every one, has a wildly different, but also really palpable atmosphere. So, your Prisoners to your Arrival to your Enemy to this to Blade Runner.
Yeah.
They're just so different, but I mean, the atmosphere is like it right from the start. It's thick and it's heavy, and it's always at a really high level. It's always like really dense, and it just feels like really involved. And then you get the set piece moments where, for instance, they're at the border trying to come back into the US from Juarez, and the temperature just ratchets up, doesn't it? And just kind of, oh shit,
Yeah.
this is a moment. And at the end there as well with when they're in the tunnels with the night vision.
Oh man. Yeah.
The same thing. It's just so tense, so masterfully built, and it doesn't do it through like cheap. I say cheap. It's maybe not fair to say that, but kind of like cheap means where it just comes out with this big blasting soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do it with jump scares or with long bouts of like gunfire or something like that. It doesn't do it like that. It just does it through the cinematography, and the dialogue, and the subtle kind of soundtracks that go along in the background. And you stare at a screen, and he takes his time doing stuff. These things are. All of his films that I've seen are pretty slow burners.
Yeah.
So it takes its time telling its story that it wants to do. It's really deliberate in what it wants to do. And it delivers. Every one of them that I've seen have delivered. Some to greater and lesser extents, but every one of them has delivered just kind of in bags. Just pays off in spades. And I think he is. He's possibly my favourite director at the moment. Him with... it is him. I'm a fan of Nolan. But Nolan's
I always love what Nolan does, yeah. But
Nolan's
killing it.
Yeah, he's a little bit blockbuster these days, Nolan. Which isn't a bad thing. But I think being a blockbuster sort of like limits what you can do a little bit.
Yeah.
People are expecting you to do it this way.
Yeah, Villeneuve doesn't seem to compromise his art. He does it how he wants to, and it definitely feels like his vision.
Speaking of him and just linking back into Star Wars, I'd love to see him do a Star Wars film.
Maybe one of those
anything,
side stories.
Just anything. Just see him do one of these where he can really just sink his. And we know that he can work in an existing universe because he did it with Blade Runner. It was fucking amazing.
I'd like to see him do something like something like following a bounty hunter in Star Wars. Something really grounded.
Yeah.
That could be great. Like something like that 1313 could have been. Do you remember that game that got cancelled? That looked like like a grounded thing. I think you played as a bounty hunter in that. That looked cool. That'd be really cool if Villeneuve could do something like that.
Yeah.
So I'd Django. Stories of Django before Boba.
You know what? I'm done with the Fets. They're so underwhelming.
Greedo. Let's play as Greedo then.
Greedo, a Star Wars story.
Yeah. I don't know, like one of those be any one of them, like one of those fucking, I don't know, do Bosk, like that weird looking guy from Jabba's Palace and stuff. Not Jabba's Palace. I think it was Jabba's Palace, or maybe he was on Cloud City. Just some of those weird, obscure bounty hunters you kind of see in the background.
Don't that looks like a crocodile?
Yeah, I think it's him. Yeah, but any obscure bounty hunter or a brand new character, doesn't have to be a bounty hunter. Just anything. I think he could, because we yet to see a real grounded Star Wars movie. Like Rogue One, probably the closest. Would be really cool, I think, to see the effects of the Empire on the civilian life on different planets and stuff. The Empire and the rebels in this war that's going on, and let's see it from a perspective of a neutral character.
Yeah.
That
A
could
lot
be
of
cool.
people were really excited for Battlefront 2 because that was supposed to be from the Imperial side of things.
Yeah. Did she just like defect anyway?
Yeah, allegedly in that story, after 10 minutes, she defects to the rebels. So it's like, so what the fuck was the point?
Right. But yeah, bringing it back to Sicario. So yeah, new director Stefano Sollima. Hoping this could be this person's breakout movie, because I mean, if you look back through Villeneuve's previous work, it's a bunch of like great films that I know, like American made stuff, and then it's a bunch of, I think, like just French Canadian stuff, which is really obscure and not many people have seen. And then he got his breakout movie. I'm not sure which one it was. Let's hope this could be the case for this person. Maybe they'll shine. Um, Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin are both coming back. How do you feel about Del Toro's character making a return in that? Because I kind of felt like he'd done his stuff. He wrapped up.
Yeah, because he was, well, realistically, he was also just sort of
It was
getting
like it
revenge
was
for his family, wasn't he?
It was
He's done
his
his
revenge
against the
mission.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So now he's coming
And he's done
back.
that.
He's coming back with Josh Brolin, and I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I guess if you were trying to rationalize it, you could argue that right at the end, where he's speaking to Emily Blunt's character, and he says, "You might want to move. This is a land for wolves now, and you're not a wolf." And you could argue that him living this kind of life of revenge has turned him into someone that can't just put it away, even though he's got his revenge.
Yeah,
This is what he does now.
I like that.
So
You
that
saw-
could work.
You sold me on it already.
Well, yeah, that could work.
I saw the cast. I'm like, nah, he's not. No, that's stupid. No. Just like in one sentence, she was like, yeah, no, I want to see it now. That works. He brought it back.
And I really like Josh Brolin's character in that.
Yeah.
In the first one, as being like this CIA agent, and he's almost an enemy of the US in a way, because he doesn't, like, obviously he's working towards a goal, but he doesn't tell Emily Blunt's character anything the entire way through, and she's kept in the dark and used for his own purposes.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's just kind of like, yeah, that's absolutely what we did. We just use you because we needed to use you to get what we needed to get done.
And that's part of why a first viewing of that film is kind of hard to see, because it keeps the audience as much in the dark as it keeps Emily Blunt's character. You only know as much as she does.
Yeah, I mean, she says it pretty early on. Well, not actually, not. Maybe just after they get back from Juarez, and she says you're a spook, and that's the first sort of suggestion that he is he's a spy. You know, he's a CIA agent.
But
I think that's the first one, at least. I can't remember.
But yeah, if anyone hasn't seen Sicario, I at least highly recommend it. I know it's not too relevant. I think it came out. Did it come out last year or the year before?
2015.
Oh
Yeah, it was a
God.
bit younger than that, yeah.
God,
as well,
I
thought it was 14. I thought it was 14, to be honest.
Right, I think I only saw it for the first time last year, so that's why I'm getting confused. But either way, if you haven't seen it, I would recommend watching it. It's very good. Hope the sequel can live up.
Yeah, me too.
All right, bit more relevant now in the latest film we've seen, Darkest Hour, a movie about Winston Churchill. We saw that about a week or two ago. Gary Oldman in the full makeup playing Winston Churchill. What a performance! He absolutely killed it.
Nailed it,
didn't he? I know it wasn't a completely accurate depiction of the man himself. Not too historically accurate, but hell of a performance, hell of an acting performance. He completely disappeared into that character to the point where you're watching it, you don't even see the actor anymore. And I love when an actor can do that, when you're watching a film and you stop looking at Gary Oldman, or you stop looking at Christian Bale or whoever, and they become that character. I love that. I always think it's it's special when an actor can do that, and he absolutely did it in this. Winston Churchill, starring some other. Sorry, go on.
It was about 2 minutes for me before that happened. So that's the first see him in his bed, and you can tell he's got the visual sort of face.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the same.
Face.
Yeah. I look at him. I'm like, I see. I'm seeing Gary Oldman in there, but
pretty much as soon as the typewriter girl runs out of the room, that's pretty much, you know what, fucking hell, he's ruthless, and I just forgot it was Gary Oldman from then on.
Yeah, it was about the same for me. As soon as you hear the voice and the mannerisms and stuff, he completely encompassed the man. Starring some other British actors. I'm forgetting names, but the guy who played Orson Krennic in Star Wars Rogue One. I feel like Star Wars is like completely covering this whole podcast. And dude from Game of Thrones. I can't remember the character he played. Help me out, someone.
The first one you were on about was it Ben Mendelsohn or something? Mendelsohn?
Mendelshaw? Mendelsohn?
Yeah.
Mendelsohn.
Yeah. Mendelsohn. Yeah, Ben Mendelsohn. So he played Orson Krennic, and the king in this film. Fucking dude from Game of Thrones, help me, please.
Are you on about which character?
Stannis, the guy who played Stannis Baratheon in Game of Thrones, was in this film. He was also very good.
Stephen Delane.
Stephen Delane. Ben acting like he knows it, like he's fucking Googling.
Halifax. No, it's Halifax. I know. As soon as you said Halifax.
Lord Halifax. That's who he played.
Yeah.
Sure. So Lily James, is it?
Kristen Scott
she's
Thomas.
The typewriter.
She's a typist. Who? Sorry, Greg.
Kristen Scott Thomas. She's a very famous actress.
And who did she play? Okay, I'm not sure who that is.
His wife.
His wife.
That was his wife.
Yeah.
Great cast. I've gone on long enough. Ben, what did you think of the movie?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I thought it was a fantastic portrayal. I think Winston Churchill is probably one of the most important people in perhaps British history, for what he did and the way he did it, because he wasn't the first choice. He wasn't liked, but he was the one who made the decisions who needed to be made to ensure the outcome that we got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I think I said it to you guys when we were there, and the movie sort of shows that. But he wasn't the man that Britain wanted, but he was the man that Britain needed, and I think that stuck through the movie.
Greg?
Yeah, I feel largely the same. I mean, I don't want to stray too much into the kind of historical thing because I'll get my facts wrong. And I'll be like, yeah, he invented the Big Mac, and it'll just be complete bullshit.
Well, he invented car insurance, that's for starters.
Yeah. He invented the dog as well. So,
yeah.
Yes, clearly. Yeah, so, I've seen a couple of these films, these Churchill films that kind of tell the same story, and there was one that was done, I think it was called Into the Storm. There was another good one. And perhaps the portrayal that was done by, I think it was Brendan Gleeson. The portrayal that was done there was perhaps a little bit more historically accurate. But as you said, Gary Oldman was great in this. He disappeared into the role within a few minutes, and just you weren't seeing him at all after that point. I think throughout the thing, it was a really good film. I could have watched another 3, 4, 5 hours of that. Just carried on and told the rest of the story. The rest until the end of the war. I could have absolutely sat there, more than happy enough to sit and watch that. Let's hope we get Into the Storm too. Oh no, Darkest Hour too. Sorry. Yeah, the darker hour. Yeah. yeah, I really enjoyed it. My only criticism in the entire film, and it's not really a criticism, and it's only on reflection that I've come back to this, is that...
That was too short.
Well, yeah, I mean, is that there was the scene where they're on the tube. And I actually liked that scene, and I do
really
like that scene because it felt nice, and it was kind of like a patriotic moment. It's like, oh yeah, the British people are cool.
That tell me now that didn't happen.
Doesn't well, no, it didn't happen. That scene doesn't really fit with the rest of the film. It's kind of the rest of the film that's kind of like a somber and serious affair, and then you've just got this sort of like, oh yeah, he's in the tube and he's chatting to all these people. That didn't feel like it fit the rest of the film.
I didn't feel that way.
No, I disagree.
Yeah, it didn't take me out of it or anything like that.
I like the scene.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I like the scene. But if I'm trying to be critical, that scene didn't fit the rest of the film. Could have lost that, been alright with it.
Fair enough.
Or done it in a different way.
Yeah, no, I was okay with it. I don't think it didn't fit.
I think
but it was a super nice scene.
Yeah, one of the strengths of Churchill was that despite all of the people telling him differently, he stuck to his beliefs. So any other politician that could have been named Prime Minister would have sued for peace. Would have.
And they were, and Halifax, who was wanted to be, was doing that through the duration of the film.
Yeah, so they would have sued for peace. There was only one person in the cabinet, or whatever you want to call it, who wouldn't have sued for peace, who did not want to do that, and that was him. And you never know, had that happened, we might all be speaking German.
Yeah.
So that's
German
pretty
flags
significant.
hanging down the side of Big Ben.
Yeah, so that's a pretty significant thing historically. And in this film, it goes throughout the entire film showing that he's got these doubts, but he still sticks to his man, he sticks to his guns. And then you have this scene there where it just felt like a little bit of unnecessary reinforcement of what he's thinking. And I don't think it was needed. That's just a personal thing. I like the film, I like the scene. I don't think that scene was needed because it was a bit too much of a gear shift.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah. I don't feel the same, but I get where you're coming from.
I enjoyed it being in the film. I agree. Perhaps it didn't need it because it didn't really happen. But I'm not too criticised on it because I loved the whole thing. That was great.
This film might be a little hard to digest, I suppose, if it's not your history. It works for us being British, growing up, hearing about these stories and stuff like that. So I can get that because I've kind of felt a similar way with other.
Apparently, it's really, 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 really popular in the US.
Has it done well in the US? That's good then. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
really
I'm
popular.
maybe I'm a prick then because when Lincoln came out, it not being my history, I didn't bother with it. Maybe I should see it because that was Daniel Day-Lewis, wasn't it? And I believe
I felt the same. Yeah.
He did a great performance. So I don't know. Maybe we're dicks. Maybe we're just unaccepting of other cultures. But yeah, if I don't know.
Our history is so much better. It just is. Let's not pretend that it's not.
Oh dear.
The US history is like 10 minutes long.
It's a good job there's no viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good job. Nobody listen.
The one lone viewer has just shut the door.
But yeah, if you want to see a fantastic acting performance, give this a go. He absolutely killed it. He really did. Gary Oldman's always fantastic, but he was extra special in this. Let's hope that he can get an Oscar. I know it's fucking meaningless anyway, but the man deserves.
Who's he up
something.
against? The nominations came out yesterday, didn't they?
I haven't seen them. Do you know them?
Full list by category. Best Picture, so it was nominated for Best Picture, alongside other stuff like Dunkirk, Shape of Water, which might be the winner. Oh, fucking mute that. Pre-roll. Actress in a leading role, actor in a leading role. So we've got Timothy Chalamet. I'm probably butchering that name. Call Me By Your Name. Daniel Day-Lewis in Phantom Thread. And it's Daniel Day-Lewis, so I guess he's got a chance of winning that because he fucking wins everything else.
That's right.
Oh, Daniel Kaluuya is nominated for Get Out. That's good.
Oh, right, yeah, cool. Good for him.
He won't win it, but
No,
that's
but
good.
yeah, good for him.
Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour and Denzel Washington in Roman J.'s Real Esquire, which I've not heard of. Oh, let's have a look, see if there's a best makeup. Because he'd probably win that.
Yeah, he should get that. But it won't be him. It'll be his team.
What will that count as costume design? Visual
Maybe?
effects,
Visual
film
effects, I
editing,
was thinking
makeup and hairstyling. So Darkest Hour, Victoria and Abdul, which I've not heard of, and Wonder, which I've not heard of.
Right.
So he'll probably win that.
Yeah, he's hoping. Yeah, but be nice for Gary Oldman to get something, because I mean he's been just shitting out fantastic performances his entire career. Yeah, he deserves something.
Visual effects, Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
No, they were great. Come on.
Yes.
okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
They look cool. The
It
holograms.
looked. It looked good.
It was visually
Cin-
stunning. Yeah,
Cinematography, Blade Runner 2049.
for sure.
I'd still go.
That's in with the show.
Is
I really want to
Dunkirk in
watch The
that?
Shape of Water.
Yeah, I want to see that.
That's
too.
nominated all over the show.
Has it been released in the UK yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
So we'll definitely see.
What
that.
about Dunkirk? Is that in cinematography?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Interesting timing with these two movies, Darkest Hour and Dunkirk, coming out at a similar time, telling
Yeah,
a
'cause
similar
the
story
same-
from two different sides, or two different areas from the same side.
Do you know what?
Dunkirk's-
That's actually a good point. You know, if you stitch these two movies together and had, because there was just that little fraction of a scene, wasn't there, when he sends the ships over and you get like a little bit of a flotilla coming over.
It'd absolutely work, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. That.
So there you go. That's how you make the movie longer, because you wanted to see more. You just splice them together at a point, and now you've got like a longer movie.
Dunkirk's nominated for Best Sound Editing,
Right.
it will probably be in with a shout of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because the sound in that film was pretty powerful.
We were
Original
talking about
score as well.
atmosphere earlier, and the atmosphere in that film, Dunkirk, was just out of this world, man.
Yeah.
It was tense.
Yeah, maybe a bit too tense though. It was too much. I felt like I'd run a marathon after coming out of that film. It's like Jesus Christ.
Oh,
You
it
catch my
was
breath.
the ending bit when the guy's in the water and you don't see his face when he's being like dragged when the pilot's shouting down the the pilot's shooting down the bomber, and the bomber goes in the water where it all explodes, and the music and the sound that was going on there, and just the sort of the way it got louder, and that tension there was like,
Yeah.
I don't think it top that.
Yeah.
There's a couple of films that I must. It seems I need to watch for this Phantom Thread, I guess, with Shape of Water.
Shape of Water is it's like Guillermo del Toro just went, I really liked Abe Sapien from Hellboy. Let's just do that again.
Yeah, so just do it.
Got Doug Jones back, and he just looks exactly the same. Let's have a love story with Abe Sapien. But yeah, that film looks really, really, really cool. All right, shall we leave it there?
Yeah.
That's right. This has been episode 6 of the Dig Sack podcast, and I've still got my knob.